Today we're in Exodus chapter 13, verses 11 through 16. In this passage, we're going to see a when, we're going to see a what, and we see a why. Very specific words from the Lord to Moses for the Israelites. And the when he starts with is when the Lord brings you into Canaan, the promised land. Here is what you are to do. And this is it. You are to give to the Lord the firstborn of every womb. Whether it's livestock or human, you are to give back to the Lord the firstborn of every womb. And you do this in two ways. One is through sacrifice through all animals except for donkeys. And then for the firstborn of the donkey and of the human, you would redeem those. And the way in which you redeemed the firstborn of the donkey was through the life of a lamb. Or for a human, we see in Numbers a little later on that it would be through 5 shekels. And so you have sacrifice and you have redemption. And that's the what. And before we get into the why, I want you to just think for a second. Are there things in your life that remind you of certain things? Maybe you have mementos or something that reminds you to not take for granted something that's happened or something that is happening. Maybe it's a picture, some kind of souvenir, but just things that make you remember. This, I hold my hand right here, is just this little statue, little guy, this little preacher. He says, "Let me lead your flock." And this was a statue that my dad had. He was a pastor for nearly 50 years, and he passed away just under 2 years ago. And he had a little guy like this, and his favorite preacher was Adrian Rogers, and so he called his little preacher guy Adrian. And it's just a great reminder, I think, for him, probably, just that leading starts with coming before the Lord and asking for wisdom and guidance before the Lord. And when my dad passed away, my sister got herself one of these and she got me one. And so this sits in my office now. And every time I see it, I don't necessarily think of this little preacher guy. I think of my dad and remember where I came from. I came and was raised by a man that loved the Lord wholeheartedly, that wanted me to be as much like Christ as I possibly could be. Kind of reminds me of my roots, where I came from, and just how great of a man my dad was. And as we get into this passage a little more and we see the why, this act that was told for them to do, the reason was so that they would remember where they came from. And the Bible says that later your kids will ask, why do we do this? And it's clear, we do this so that we can tell them, we can teach them that God has redeemed us. We were once slaves, but God has redeemed us. And even when Pharaoh didn't want to let us go, God had a powerful hand that redeemed us and led us to freedom. We do this so we will never forget. And so, whether it's like this, and remember my dad, but even more importantly, may we be reminded today to not take for granted, as we often do, the sacrifice of Jesus. That yes, once we were slaves to our sin, but Jesus came to redeem us. Aren't you grateful today? Have a blessed day.